To the January 25th, 2021 meeting of the Coeur d'Alene Parks and Recreation Commission. First meeting of the year. It's been a while since our last meeting in September. It's good to see everybody here and well. Melissa, would you get us started with roll call, please?
Commissioner Cranston,
Here.
Commissioner McDowell, Commissioner Lean,
Here.
Commissioner Tate. Here. Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Wood.
Here.
Commissioner Schultz.
Here.
Well, we have a quorum tonight. Let's go ahead and, Jenny, if you would, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I'd like to welcome our alternate student rep here tonight, Theo Schultz. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's see, do any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest with any of the agenda items tonight? Okay, there are none. I guess the first action item then would be approval of the September 21st, 2020 meeting minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Tate, seconded by Commissioner Lean to approve the September 21st, 2020 meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Bill, that brings us to staff comments. What do you have for a report for us tonight?
Well, a few updates on what we've been up to since we last met. The Recreation Division, we went ahead and started soccer registration early, even though it's going to be March. We just kind of felt like we wanted to roll out some registrations so that it felt like we're starting to move in a more positive direction. So if things should turn a different direction, we will certainly cancel those, but for now, we're doing that. We've been in some discussion with the school district about possibly getting into their gyms within the next month or so. Again, we don't know what the future holds for us, but we're having that dialogue. The staff in the rec side, all the guys have been working in the Parks Department. They've been helping out on grounds work, and they've been helping out a bunch with the tree work. So both Jerry, Jordan, and Adam have been working out in the field. Adam worked the weekend after the storm to help out a bunch at Jewett House. We had a lot of damage at Jewett House. We'll talk about that here in a bit. So we've been staying busy. One new thing coming up on the rec side is the music conservatory that's next to the county building. Is it Romer building? Is that what it's called there? They've occupied that, and they're going to partner with us on giving lessons, and we're taking registration for them through our department. So we had a couple of good meetings with them, and so we're moving forward with that as well. The building division's been working on a PD remodel. They've got that all buttoned up, and that went pretty well. That's something Howard had started, and now Adam put the close to that. So we had some office space that we were remodeling over there. And Adam's been very good. Adam Kritko has been really good about, we're doing the disinfectant and sanitation within our buildings. We have a couple different machines. The police department, the fire department has one, but we bought a more mobile unit, kind of like you might have seen Gary Stark in the front of the paper at NIC was doing the auditorium. We've got something like that. So it's a lot more mobile. It gives us better access to spaces, and we can move quicker with it. So we're doing all of our facilities once a week. That's the building side. The parks has one too, so we're using it inside of our restrooms and at our shops. And so we're doing those weekly as well. And then the park stuff that we've been working on. You may have seen that we've got our CXT new restroom building installed in the north end of Park where the old Bricks restroom was. Looks really nice, fits in well. We've not hooked up the water yet, but we got it in place. A little bit of damage to the grounds, but not as bad as we maybe could have got. The ground should have been a little more firm, but it wasn't. And so, but anyway, we'll get that all cleaned up. It looks real nice. We've been working with NIC. They're working on their Cardinal that's going to go on the sort of the end, the pedestrian ramp into the grandstands. They've shown me a mock-up. Somebody suggested to the right of me here that it might help to have a little bit of a border around it, and so they were going to redo that one and work that one through a bit. But it looks nice. Where it's going to be placed, I think it's going to be an excellent location, give them good visibility. You'll be able to see their logo from Northwest Boulevard. So I think that's a good boon for them. We've got ads going out, RFPs for our concession spot at Independence Point. Those will be in the paper February 2nd. We'll have an on-site meeting with interested parties on the 9th, and then after that, it closes a week later, and then we'll sit down, hopefully we'll get a volunteer to work with Adam and I to score those RFPs to see who the winner is. Working with Rotary on the Sherman Square Park. You may have seen some of that going around, so we're moving forward with that. There's some ideas that are still floating around about how that design and those monies could be used. So we're working on that one. We this year, or into last year, with Street Department, leveled those 2 motels down on East Sherman. One of those, both of them will be green space. One of them may continue to be green space. We may turn that into something more like a pocket park, which we can do that in-house ourselves. I've been tasked with an idea to come up with a design and maybe a cost. I don't think it's going to be that much. Yes, sir.
Can you mention which one you're looking at being
The
larger?
larger of the two, the one closest to
Corner?
to moon time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's the larger of the two, yes. Okay. We've got a cemetery fee increase coming up. We raised them up by 5%. A few little items that, for example, in the adult raised headstone section, it went from 1,250 to 1,310. So it's a 5% increase, and there's a few of those that went up just $50. Raised headstone in Riverview went from $1,000 to $1,050. So there's not a huge number. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering how Forest Cemetery fared.
Not well. So I've got a long list of things here of tree damage.
I'll
So
bet you do.
That one's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's going to, boy, Renata's working on it probably within the next few weeks. I'm not certain what her timeline is, but we've been discussing it internally and with her. We've dusted off you guys, and it'll come back to you again, the ice rink. So Jerome contacted me near the end of the year. We were supposed to meet him the day of the storm on site. We got a little busy, so we've postponed that meeting. He's still interested in moving forward, so I thought we would just start all over since it was so long ago. Bring it back to you again, have you guys make a motion on it, and then we'll move it forward from there. Monty's working with Mr. Evans on the CanCore still. We just buttoned up some back and forth stuff between us and Jason, Mr. Evans, about the wording within the master plan. We've got a master plan and an agreement. And so I want to reach out to the HOA over in that vicinity and get them to the table before we bring that to you guys and see, making certain we're touching all the hot buttons and we can, navigate through that without anybody getting too wound up. And I think that's it for the updates now on the park damage that people were asking about. So, total parks was 37 trees down. Natural area was 22, but I haven't got a count yet from you on Canfield.
I don't have a number on Canfield yet, but we had probably more like 30 on Tubbs alone.
Okay, so that was coming up. That was, okay, good.
Had about 5 or 7 on Fernan, and we've only gotten partially through Fernan so far.
So the Jewett House had 2 that came down, with one neighbor's coming across the road and took out our fence. We lost one big ponderosa that took out the garage. So we had the adjuster out there last week We don't know, I haven't heard their report yet whether it's totaled. It looks like it is to me, but I'm no adjuster, so we'll see. If it is have to be raised, we reached out just to talk to some construction people to say, what is your availability? And they said, we're a year out. So I'm not certain where we're going to go with that, but my hope is that we'll do it in the same historical look as the house itself and see what we can do. It was a long process to do that same idea with our grandstands, as you all know, so we'll see what we can do. But we're waiting on that adjuster. It took out 3 fences as well. We had a couple more in the area that I went ahead, they would look like they had some root heaves, so we went ahead and we're going to have those contractually done here. I think Nick said by the end of this week. I think the tree service found an opening for us, so we're going to take out a couple of larger ones that are on that northern end of the property. There's a big ponderosa that's got a triple top in it, and its root system doesn't look really stable, so we're just going to take it. City Park, 6 trees came down. One of them damaged the south fence and one of the play apparatuses in the Fort Sherman itself. So we'll have to, when we get all that out of there, we're going to have to redo the pickets, because if you recall, there are everybody's names in the pickets. So that there's a section of fence. What do you say, Mike? What, 20 foot, 15 foot section?
Yeah, 15 at most.
Yeah, 15 foot section. So we've got a lot of guys that are handy. They'll get that fixed up. Forest Cemetery, we lost 18. 2 or maybe 3 more that are starting to uproot that we're going to take. So we may have 20 or 22 in there easily by the time we're done. On Short Street, we had a big one come across the street, take out the cemetery gate, take out our east shop where Monty stores his equipment on that lean-to, and the parks, the fence around the shop. And so the adjuster was running around last week and was doing analysis on all that. Tubs, like Monty said, we had probably 25, if not 30. Ramsey, we only lost 1. 2 at North Pine, smaller ones crossed the fence and hit our neighbors to the north of us roof line. Not a lot of damage, minimal. Didn't bust through the structure, but there's a little bit of superficial stuff that has to be worked on. Cherry Hill, we lost a couple at the BMX track. Again, that was in a native area, so it didn't do any damage. We just bucked them up and took it out. Bryan Field, we lost a big one along Harrison there. That one came out near the bear. Did it damage the bear? No? I missed the bear? Okay, good. So we had a big one there. Government Way, probably 5 in total, and 2 more that we took because they were uprooting as well. And Winton Natural Area had a couple. So all that adds up to about 37 trees in the parks, and probably with counting Canfield, all the natural area, close to 35 or 40.
Yeah, and that's just on the trails. There's probably a lot more that aren't on the trails that are
Okay.
not interfering with the public.
So the natural areas, so we're with Jeff and I, Jeff Erickson, our superintendent, have been talking about what we're going to do. The last storm, we developed a skid that we were winching up material when we lost a bunch of trees some months ago. We're going to get a different size winch. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to try and get our chipper up there and chip what we can, do what they call lop and scatter. When that decomposes, it helps the soils. Soils up there are very thin. We'll take out what we can. There's some concern. Mark Weedy, that used to sit on the Tubbs Foundation, has chimed in on his concern about the bark beetle. And so when those dead trees are down, we're going to do some stuff to that bark to help dry that out, that makes it unappealing for the adults to lay the larvae in that. So you score that bark, it dries out, so they don't want to lay the larvae under that cambium layer. So we'll be aware of that, but we've got quite a bit of work to do up there. We've got some, the foundation, Tubbs Foundation has some funds, we have some funds. We may get some contractors to help us with some of that work, but we'll do some of it ourselves as well. And I think that's about it for the update on the windstorm.
Bill, is there any parks, cemeteries, or trail facilities that are closed as a result of the
Thank you.
storm
Yes, there
damage?
are. So in fact, the cemetery's still closed. We've got enough work in there that we've got them closed. I think Jeff said hopefully by the end of this week, he'd like to get them open. But it was closed since the time that the storm hit until today. And so they were in there working again today. And like I said, we'll probably keep it closed until that contractor can come in. He's going to have to piece out a couple of big ones. So we just go ahead and keep that closed. If anybody contacts us and they want to come in, we'll certainly work with them. And so we've done that already for a handful of people that wanted that, where there's a person that came in from out of state to visit their loved ones, and they called us, and Robert Cooper, our lead out there in the cemetery, met them on site and brought them in and made certain that none of the work was going on near them while they were there. So if anybody's out there that wants to come in to visit someone, we'll work with them, absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Christie?
Bill, just a couple of things. You didn't mention all your hard work on the Dyke Road at NIC. You're doing a lot
I
there,
forgot
too.
that one. It's not on my list, but thank you. Yeah, we went out there, Nick met with the street department, and it's interesting, our observation is that the native trees on the riverside, I thought that we'd lose more there.
Yeah.
We lost 5 or 6. The other side,
The college side.
college side of the
Yeah.
levee, which is still the city's responsibility. We're in charge of the levee itself, both sides. There were probably another 20 plus on that side. And the campus itself is a disaster. And it was just our observation looking at it is that, you know, the naturally watered trees fared better than the ones that are in an irrigated area. And so their roots go down as deep. They don't have to seek water.
Yeah.
And if we'd had the right kind of temperature that we normally would have this time of year, I don't think we'd see a third of the damage that we received. But it was just so wet and so warm that it was just hard to stay in place.
It's pretty massive. Some of our children's center was hit pretty bad, too. But also, I'm curious, I live on the Coeur d'Alene Public Golf Course. Lots of trees down there. Does the city work with the public course at all?
No,
For
we do
any of
not.
that? Okay.
It's all private.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Hard work, a lot of work this week for the whole
Well,
crew.
you know, we've got a great staff. I mean, I've talked about it before, but the attitude of our staff is just, they're just upbeat. When we ask for volunteers in a weekend, man, everybody, yeah, we're there. And it was, I suggested that they take the 3-day weekend. I said, you guys have been working hard. Don't you? No, man, we got to get it done. So
Wow.
I said, remember, it's not a sprint. It's a long distance race because you're going to be doing this for weeks. So, but they came in on that Saturday, and then I think they worked a little bit again this last Saturday. So, yeah, they're doing really, really well. And throughout this whole pandemic stuff, they've really kept a great attitude. And we've had to quarantine a few times here and there. Had a couple people test positive, but we did all the right protocol, and everybody's really doing great. They got a spring in their step, and they're getting it done.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Bill? Thank you for getting us caught up, Bill. Appreciate it. Do any of the commissioners tonight have any comments or announcements? Okay. And being that we don't have any guests with us tonight, there won't be any public comments. And that's going to bring us to our next action item regarding the master plan. Bonnie, I'll go ahead and just read the staff report, and then you can take it over from there. The decision point tonight is, will the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend to City Council the adoption of the 2021 Parks and Recreation Master Plan? The city adopted the current Parks and Recreation Master Plan in 2008 and has implemented many of the recommendations. There have been many changes to the city since then, and an update to the plan was needed. The Coeur d'Alene Parks and Recreation Department created this plan in-house as opposed to hiring out to an outside agency. This plan inventories parks This plan inventories parks and recreation facilities as well as provides suggested recommendations for future parks by 2040. Although the plan is projecting for growth by the year 2040, the plan will need to be updated in 10 years to make sure we are meeting the needs of the community. The department is seeking to develop a plan that will provide the citizens of Coeur d'Alene the facilities and programs they need for outdoor recreation now and well into the future. After the October 2020 meeting, we reopened the master plan to public comment and received another 500 responses from local residents. The new responses verified all the same findings we had previously received, with the exception of a strong show of support for more pickleball facilities and a water trail. These have been added to the master plan. Under the financial analysis, adopting the plan does not oblige the city to allocate funds for implementation of the plan. When a project is identified, it is either funded by applying for grants, obliging new annexations and developments to put in the facilities, or requesting it be put into the budget in the future. Adopting the Parks and Recreation Master Plan will provide a blueprint for parks and recreation facilities for the next 10 years. Again, the decision tonight would be whether to recommend to City Council the adoption of the 2021 Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Good evening, Commissioners. I apologize, in that staff report I put October, it was actually the September meeting.
September meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So good evening. Mike and I, we came back here, we came to you guys in September to present this. We were directed to come back once we went out and got some more public comment, so that's what we did. This is a plan that Mike and I worked on in-house for about a year and a half, and we're just gonna update you on the findings that we have found throughout this process. So this first slide just talks about what you just read in the staff report, how we went out. We got quite a few more responses. We put the survey on SurveyMonkey, and we posted that on social media, and we got probably 2 to 3 times more people responding than we had in the original survey. When I overlaid the new graphs with the old graphs, it was almost identical as far as the increases on the different things we asked them, with the exception of we had a very strong show of support for pickleball facilities and a water trail, which we had actually had added into our Trails Master Plan, but we decided to add that into the Parks and Rec Master Plan as well. And a water trail it's basically signs and wayfinding and maps. Of course, you can't build a trail on water, but it guides people, shows them where to launch kayaks, where to go to stop to get lunch, to take a rest, loops you can go on. It's as a matter of fact, Post Falls is working on one as well, and we can link up those 2 routes or water trails at the same time. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike. He's going to talk about accomplishments and what we've done since the last master plan.
Hi, good evening. We talked about this in September, so I'll keep it kind of brief, but this is a list of accomplishments that were based on the master plan that was approved back in January of 2008. These are things that have been done since then. Kind of shows you the value of a master plan. Since the master plan was adopted, we have developed and opened new parks at the Landing, Sunshine Meadows, Legacy Place, and most recently at the Atlas site. We've made major improvements to Bluegrass Park, Sunset Field, Fippany Park, and added a full disc golf course, 18 holes at Cherry Hill Park, which was a request in the original master plan. We've acquired parkland, including 5 acres at Cherry Hill Park, Bryan Field, which used to be owned by the school district, and we acquired half of Person Field again. So we've also built numerous facilities, including a hardball field at Ramsey Park for American Legion Baseball. We've installed new playgrounds at Ramsey Park, Northshire Park, and we've created 5 off-leash dog parks, which were a high priority in the original master plan. We rebuilt McEwen Park as a community park and expanded and rebuilt Memorial Park, including adding a new high-end skate park. We acquired a 22-acre easement, recreational easement on the former BNSF, not BNSF, the BLM land along the Spokane River. We also acquired the BNSF railroad grade to build a greenway on, and half of that has been developed and open to the public. We added an accessible trail and completed the fire road at Tubbs Hill. We've made trail systems at the Fernand Lake Natural Area and the Canfield Natural Area. We have a master plan in place for the Seagraves Veterans Memorial Park, and we have a management plan for our natural areas, an urban forestry management plan, which is included in this plan. We acquired use of the old armory for a satellite park shop, and we've added 25 miles of trails and 43 miles of bike lanes since the original plan was adopted. So we've made some pretty major improvements since then. And I will turn it back over to Monty.
Thank you, Mike.
So I'm going to talk about how we came to the numbers that we came to in the plan as far as planning for parks and recreation for the citizens of Coeur d'Alene. What cities and municipalities do across the nation is they determine a level of service. And it's different for every community. But what you normally do is you go out and you survey the public. You look at your numbers as far as recreation programming. If you have a lot of people waiting, if you have a lot of people packed into the parks, not enough parking, you find people in your surveys talking about, we need more of this and more of that. Then you set your level of service, and a level of service is number of park acres per 1,000 residents. And we came up with 5 would be a good number for Coeur d'Alene. And this way we can determine if we have adequate facilities, what we need to get, build out. And so this plan goes out to 2040, even though we have to update it in 2030. And our estimates for the population in 2040 are about 85,000 people. So based on those estimates, we'll need a certain number of parkland and facilities and playgrounds and ball fields and programming for all the people who live here or will live here. So at the time of our last master plan, our level of service was about 3.0 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. We desired 4 at the time, and we ended up adding, 176 acres of parkland, or our plan was to add another 176 acres at that time. Our current level of service is about 4.7, so we've gotten really close to our goal. We added 40 acres since that plan, and into the future, at 2040, we will need to add about 185 acres of parkland to get to that goal. If we don't do anything and stay where we're at now, we will end up at a level of service of about 2.82, and our parks will become very crowded. So when we sent our surveys out and got our numbers, you can see here on our first one, we asked them what your favorite attractions were. Natural areas and parks, always number 1. Waterfront and amenities, trail facilities, they always come in the top 3. What facilities would enhance your community? Again, natural areas, bike trails. In this case, we got performing arts venue, made it pretty high. Additional day use docks, cultural facilities, dog parks. We asked them, how would you rate the importance of natural areas? And that's like Tubbs Hill, Canfield, and as you can see, overwhelmingly, people found it very important to have these things in our community. What 3 things would you add to our park system? We got more bike lanes and trails was number 1. More parks near water was number 2. Number 3 used to be more hiking and mountain bike trails, but there's now more pickleball courts. So what 3 activities would you like to see expanded? We have more bike lanes and trails again, more natural parks, and then the rest of them are pretty even. Disc golf, police presence, more public parks and trails near water, more food trucks. We get that a lot, more food trucks. And what specific area would you like to see additional natural areas? People really like to see them along the Spokane River. Of course, we added Atlas Park along the Spokane River, and the shoreline we have there is pretty natural in a lot of areas, but that's pretty much where people want to see it. And what specific areas do you want to see trails and bikeways? Everywhere was the number 1 answer. We got along the Spokane River and at the Atlas Mill site. And we also have a north-south trail on the east side of town, which we actually have a plan for. We're calling the Foothills Trail, which we'd like to bring forward at some point. That would connect the Centennial Trail down by Silver Beach all the way up to Canfield Mountain. And so this is a map of our current parks in the north end. Would you like to take this?
Sure. Our park system in our city has grown big enough where we have to have 2 maps in the master plan to read it legibly. But in the map, this map shows where our existing parks and facilities are. Basically, it divides the city north and south on I-90 We have 3 community parks north of I-90, and I think 5 neighborhood parks and 4 sports facilities, along with most of the Prairie Trail, which is one of our most important connectors. Go ahead and switch it. South of I-90, we have 3 more community parks. Actually, those are groups of community parks because City Park, Memorial Park, Independence Point basically functions as one park, but they are 3 separate units. We have 5 more neighborhood parks, and most of the Centennial Trail is south of I-90 in this area of the town. The next map shows the general location of where we think some of the future parks should go. We don't want to identify specific parcels, but we see a need for 3 more community parks, all north of I-90. There is 1 community park planned on the BLM property along the Spokane River. We already have access to that property, and there is a master plan in place for that. We also show general locations for 9 more neighborhood parks, and basically we were looking for underserved areas such as around the Pine Grove area. There's not a neighborhood park within walking distance of Pine Grove at all. And we list those later on in the plan. And we also show areas of interest for natural areas. You can see that large area south of the Spokane River. If the city annexes land along there, we would like to see some natural areas over there where the public would. And also in the hills around Best Hill, Cherry Hill, and Canfield Mountain. And those are the maps that are included in the park. And there are also things not shown on the map that are in the master plan, like recommended greenway expansions along the Spokane River, the north-south foothills trail, as Monty calls it, as I call it as well, and specific recommendations on where we need more sports fields, some of which are on city land that the city already owns, such as at Cherry Hill Park and the Atlas site. So go ahead. The next one is, what I do, go backwards?
You got it.
Thank you.
And I'd like to explain this map a little bit so you can understand what it is. So the solid dots represent current parks. The ones you can see through are the proposed parks. And the ones with dotted lines are proposed parks that are already planned. So they're already underway. The other ones aren't planned, they're just out there for a future need. So, where we will be. This is a list of the parks that he had just mentioned in detail here. So you can see the names there. These are just names that we came up with. I'm sure they won't be the final name. And we come to the end. So will the Parks and Recreation Commission recommend to City Council the adoption of the 2021 Parks and Recreation Master Plan?
Did the plan go into any specifics regarding recreation programs, you know, in addition to parklands and facilities?
Yes, we more focused on a number of fields that we would need for the programming, but we do have a section on recreation programming that needs there.
So Commissioner, we had the Recreation Division, Paula and her staff, work with Monty and Mike on giving them their future needs. So there's a tab, there's several pages in there that identify what their hopes are in the future.
Good. Christie?
I don't want to hold this up at all because I want to see it come forward to council. I love a master plan. But I was just curious, what would be helpful, difficult but helpful, is to try to add a little bit of budget forecast into it for the council. I know that's difficult, but.
In this presentation,
Yeah,
it's in the plan.
Okay.
So we could probably grab a slide, guys, and add, like what we talked about with a natural park, what that might cost, what a developed park might cost.
Perfect.
You know, just as an average. We're not going to be held to it, but we did get some numbers on square footages for example, what a Hawk's Nest might cost us. That's a neighborhood park. We had some numbers. So we might change one of those slides. I've got some notes. We'll work on this a little bit, and then we can get something in there, what you're asking about, just as an average, so you can understand. And you understand, though, in 5 years now, 10 years from
It'll
now,
be more.
those numbers aren't going to be accurate at all.
but we really need to start planning the budget in 5-year increments, so, yeah.
Understood.
Anything else for Monty or Mike? Thank you. Good presentation.
Thank you.
So what's the commission's pleasure?
I'd move that we recommend to the city council the adoption of the 2021 Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Okay. It has been moved by Commissioner Tate, seconded by Commissioner Wood, to recommend to City Council the adoption of the 2021 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that moves forward with a unanimous recommendation. I guess it will go to General Services, or does it go
I
right to
can't
council?
remember the routine, we're alternating between Public Works and General Services, so yes, the following Monday,
Okay.
whichever one of those.
Whichever
Which
one.
one do you sit on?
I'm at the first part of the month. I
Okay.
might see this again,
Okay, good.
3 times by the time I'm done.
The next item, you kind of touched on briefly, the Independence Point concession.
Right.
So this is an information item. Do you have,
Right, so hopefully we can get through that RFP and make a selection in time enough to make the meeting. If not, I'll have to go to the next meeting. One thing we are working on for your next meeting is the ice rink, getting that dusted off and brought back to you again.
Okay.
So we may have a couple of items for next month.
will there be a workshop? You know, next
Well,
week?
you know, we can chat about that, I guess afterwards to see whether there's much appetite to do that. The quarters are kind of cramped where we've been meeting, so I don't know everybody's comfort level. If you feel a need, we can chat about where we might be able to meet in a larger space to discuss a few things.
We could
What,
do-
you know, it's going to be in a fairly short period of time to the first Tuesday this coming month, so let's see what pops up as far
Sure,
as
okay.
agenda items to see
Well,
if there's
those
a
are the
need.
only two, and like I said, we got to meet with Jerome out on site. So let's talk about that just a little bit, the ice rink, in that we're going to do a level area out there, I think if you recall. So we're going to meet with him to determine, you know, get some square footages on what it would be to have that lift. It's not, my desire is not to have that plateau be really even noticed. It's going to look like a little bit of a raise, and so that the edge of that level surface would have a shoulder that ran out for several feet so that it doesn't look abrupt. It's really feathered out. And we would, Jeff's going to raise up all the heads out there, obviously, so we can irrigate, but we'll seed that after every season when he's done and start all over again. That way, when he starts up, it's already level. We don't, because there was some discussion about bringing the sand in and taking the sand away. And I said, well, wait a second, why don't we just leave it and figure it out so it's just, all we have to do is reseed it. That's a lot of work to lay that grade in place and then remove it and start all over every year. So that's what we need to meet with him and sort out some of those details. So those are the, and he wanted to start a week earlier. It was the third week of October, I believe, and now he wants to do, I think, the second week. So those are the only two really changes. It gives him a little bit more setup time, and we can work around any events that are happening. Live at 5, for example, is done. We don't have much going on that time of year, so I don't think it's much of an encroachment on anyone else's event. So, you know, I'm agreeable to that. But anyway, you'll see all that coming forward. I hope to have that ready for you.
So the discussion you've been having, the plan is to have it up and running for next season.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, and what the owners of CDA on Ice, Coeur d'Alene on Ice, you know, they need to make certain they have to, you know, look for sponsorships, and they want to make certain that this is solidified, and so it's easier to get sponsorships when you say, yeah, we have an agreement with the city of Coeur d'Alene. So we're working hard at trying to get that so we can get rolling on the whole deal.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
If I could, can I make a request for the next agenda?
Sure.
I just want Bill to come and tell us all about Atlas, lessons learned, I mean, it's beautiful, we love it. We haven't got to meet with you and talk with you ever since and when the park might have a ribbon cutting, those kind of things.
So we had a soft opening, right?
Yeah.
So the ribbon cutting's still pending. we've got a lot of work still to do, and so I can chat about that and maybe bring you some pictures next time.
Great.
So.
I don't want to create busy work, but it's my favorite subject. So you all decide if you agree. I'm not.
Okay.
Oh, if it's not trouble, can you put it on the next
Yeah,
agenda for an
absolutely, not
information
any
item?
issue at all. We've
Okay.
got some
Great.
nice photos we can talk about. Yeah, and, yeah, we've got a lot of work ahead of us still, mostly on the landscaping side. We've got some seed varieties that we're still working on, so we can talk about that next month.
Great.
Cool.
Thank you. Perfect.
Anything else? Okay, I'll just make a couple of our next meeting announcement then. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, February 22nd, 5:30, right here in the library community room. And with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Wood, seconded by Commissioner Lee to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned, and we'll see you next month.
Great.
Thank you, everybody.
Great to see you.